to ask someone to check if the little red lights on the camera. Yeah.
Yes.
Still can't see it. Okay. Welcome everyone to our June meeting. Thank you for coming along. Before we get on with the agenda itself, we do have at least one member of the public who wants to have a word with us beforehand. Just to check, do you want to raise anything as well? No, that's fine. Tim, would you like to let council know what you wanted to say on the planning application?
Yes, okay, fine. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Tim Griffith-Jones, and I live at Pear Tree Cottage, which is directly opposite Hatfield, where these proposed new buildings would be erected. The Parish Council considered the original application very recently and objected to it on the basis of the size of the buildings and overdevelopment. The changes in this amended application are very minor, and they appear to be in response to issues that the Drainage Board have raised. They don't really make any substantive differences to the concerns that the Parish Council raised at its last meeting just a month or so ago. There was an opportunity for the applicants to reconfigure the scope and size of the buildings and their placement, to work with the Parish Council to address some of the concerns that you'd raised. And we really don't believe that these minor changes make any substantive difference to the Parish Council's concerns that were raised earlier at the last meeting of overdevelopment. So we'd asked the Parish Council to object to the meeting, to object to the proposal and to recommend refusal.
Thank you very much. Any questions that any members have at this point that you want to ask Tim before we get into the meeting itself? No? Okay, that's great. Excellent, so we move on to the agenda itself now. That's item 1 is apologies for absence.
We've got apologies from Colin and from David. Colin is on holiday and David is working.
Okay, so we're happy to accept those apologies. Excellent. Any declarations of interest? I'll do my normal as a member of Somerset Council. Don't think that will hold wash. And I will also just mention the shop in terms of what's the phrase?
Lockers.
No. We've got a dispensation.
Where
we've got dispensation of those who are shareholders. Yeah.
Unless there's a shop item on the agenda.
Yeah. You can mention. Okay. Any declarations from any other members?
I've got shop as well.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Excellent. You've all had circulated on item 3 the minutes from the 7th of May, which was the annual Parish Council meeting. Are there any amendments to those in terms of the accuracy of what happened at the meeting? Not seeing any, so can I propose that they're true? I sign them as a true and accurate record, please. Jonathan, all those in favour show. Excellent, thank you. So item 4 is to fill vacancy and co-opt a new member of the Parish Council. We obviously have 2 vacancies at the moment. This is dealing with the first vacancy that was advertised because we've gone through the notification time for people to come forward and put their names forward. Would you like to update us on what response we had?
Yeah, the fairly limited response actually, to be honest. We just had the one applicant to fill John Matthews' position, and as I say, we went through the process that was laid down by the county and the legislative process. So we've done all the various stages. What we now end up with is the opportunity now to co-opt a member to replace John Matthews. And we have one applicant, and he's sitting right ahead of us.
Okay. So I think members have all had circulated AD's application. AD, is there anything you want to add at this point before members make a decision? You don't have to.
Will you make me sit up there straight away, or can I go tonight and come back next time?
If the members decide to co-opt you, you're on from then. So,
right. That's it.
Okay. Right, members, any?
I propose we co-opt AD. I'm happy to second that.
Okay. Yep. All those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. There's no turning back now. You are. Would you like to come forward?
Just to
You have to
annoy
move
your
your seat
fans,
now.
so you can't have your own place back there. 'Cause she's- 'cause
I shall
it's-
initiate the sign.
Maybe you could
I should, at the other meeting, I've just got a couple of bits of paper I need to complete. Okay, just to make it legal, proper.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Got your mortgage on.
Oh, you got one.
Okay, members, that takes us on to item 5, which is planning matters. The first one is 07-24-23, which is the application, revised application of Hafford Wick Lane. If,
Do you have our original objection at all, Andy? Had it brief.
The key objection was the fact that the buildings were oversized
Yeah.
for the purpose for which they were intended.
Yeah.
So it was in a rural location, and that's
Yeah.
if you could possibly put up the original proposal that was in front of members last time, which I think is the third one down, and you can see what's changed.
There we go.
So that's
So I had
what
a
was
look
in
at it.
front of us before.
So I had a look at it earlier, and I literally had both images up side by side, and the buildings have not changed size at all. So irrespective of any other changes they've made, they haven't taken into consideration what our objection was. So I don't know if you can bring up the other one, but literally alt and tab between the two, and the building shifts
And then this one down.
slightly, and that's it.
That one?
Yeah, literally, if you alt and tab between the two, you'll see the building will shift from left to right.
So all they've done is moved it slightly to the right.
Yeah, so and in the top, if you just click between the two tabs in the top right, left-hand corner, yeah, just click between the two, you'll see the building.
Yeah.
If you look at from the drain and the other one,
Right.
you'll see it's a bit further out from the drain, and that's literally all they've done.
And get rid of the bit down the side so that they're on the same sort of
Scale.
spectrum.
There
Yeah, that's trying to.
So
we go. Sorry, Laura.
you get a better idea, it literally just shifts across the image between the two. But the actual size of the building hasn't changed whatsoever. So this echoes, I think it was Tim said earlier. So given that, I'm happy to propose that we reinforce our objection.
Second.
Got a hand in it down. Look at
Animation then. So basically what, as I'm saying, you're saying that in effect, the changes that have happened haven't been
Address our
significant enough
objection.
change to address the issues that were raised.
Yeah.
I've got Malcolm and I'll come to Andy. Malcolm.
In the wording on the application, it says, support small holding and other land tenancies. This means traffic moving on that very narrow road. And as I said before, that does create a problem in a small lane like that.
Owen, did you circulate to members the correspondence that we had from one of the other
Yes,
neighbours?
from Mrs. Woodward.
Okay.
On the rejection, last time we mentioned highway and safety, and that's two of the areas that we can comment from planning. So I would say that doesn't address that problem either.
Just to come back on your point about what we said last time, we made 2 points actually. A was the units proposed are significantly larger than will be required for limited numbers of livestock associated with 2 acres of agricultural land, and the units proposed are in an area of small lane and quite unsuited to the size of the unit, and is significant overdevelopment in a rural location. So two key points last time.
Andy.
If we can add the traffic as well, if you remember we had a conversation about that being a narrow road
I think-
and increased
Wasn't
traffic.
that the second point then?
Well, it was really, yeah, because it was saying, well, it doesn't actually mention traffic actually. The
Oh,
units
okay.
proposed are in an area of small lane, quite unsuited to the size of the unit.
So there are 3 areas that we can comment on, and that's highway safety, traffic generation and noise and disturbance as a result.
So even if we just add to that paragraph and the impact that increased traffic development, yeah, site.
Okay, so we have proposals being put, we continue to object on the grounds that have been just discussed, that Owen's noted
I'll
down.
just add to to my proposal with the additional amendment around that impact to the highways.
Yeah, you've got that, haven't
Yeah, got that. Yeah,
you?
just,
Those in favour of that objection, please show. And any against? I'm not voting, just in case it comes to committee. Yeah, okay. Thank you. That takes us to 072516, which is this is the agricultural building to one dwelling. This is in Westbrook Farm Hart Road. So that's the barn that's just before you get to there used to be a little bungalow just before you get to Bowl Road, as you're heading towards Mark, that's now turning into a house. It's the barn just back from, as shown there, so the bungalow is what was Westways down here. This is Mark down that way, and it's the barn that sits back there. Amanda?
Can I ask, I brought this up before, can we know if that has permission for an agricultural building? Because I think there's a bit of a grey area where it says, change of use of agricultural building. Does it have current permission as an agricultural building?
Certainly something we could.
Because if it's not, we're on a different.
I wonder if the planning permission rules, or if it's been used as an agricultural building for 20 years, it might be.
Well, this is what I don't think that building's been there very long.
It's a pole.
Yes,
Steel
it's
frame
not,
barn.
and I don't
Okay.
think it's an agricultural
Because
holding.
this is changing
so-
to the house, to be housing, isn't it?
Well, this is it, and
Request.
I think if it's not an agricultural holding with planning permission as an agricultural building, then we can't really be looking at change of use.
No, it's a new building in effect.
Yeah,
So is your proposal that we, because it's prior approval, so we've got to just make our comments because it won't come to us at committee because it can't.
Yeah.
So in terms of the question is being asked of the officer whether this barn does qualify in terms of an agricultural building for conversion, which is exactly the sort of thing they should be looking at as prior approval.
yeah.
Okay. Any other comments that members want to make? And is there a seconder for Amanda's proposal?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favour, please show. Okay.
And then the other one, which is the water.
Yeah, so this is 72514, which is the demolition of existing garage and replacement of a new garage at the front of Bluebell House, Whip Lane.
14.
14.
14. So for a site location plan. Yes.
So again, that's probably a really good diagram to keep up. If you actually look at it, the size of the extension makes the extension, I would say, bigger than the house itself. So it is quite a substantial. If you look at the size of what's the existing.
So that's your existing garage.
Oh, okay. So that's not
That's
how
your new
to.
garage. there.
Right. Okay.
That way you should run. I mean, they are creating a bigger tarmac or a bigger
Okay.
driveway, but the actual building bit is that bit there is the new garage, proposed garage, and that bit there is the existing
So
garage.
they're demolishing the existing garage and moving it
Correct.
to create double. Okay, I misinterpreted that. And what's the main road that it's on?
So that's Whip Lane here, and this is Burton Road, just here. So
Okay.
you're right on the junction where the old cattery
Yeah.
used to be.
Doesn't look like it's really affecting anybody else, does it?
Andy?
If we notice, just as a comment, they're actually looking to double the size of the garage from its previous size. But again, it doesn't look like it's interfering with anything.
Does the repositioning improve access to the garage from the road?
It's not, well, it means they've got a better turning area to get around to the garage, because at the moment it is quite tight for them to get around that right on the corner. If anything, potentially in terms of visibility from the road, you'll see less of the new garage because it's back behind their hedging rather than it's currently quite
Interesting
close.
though, Malcolm, looking at that diagram, the door entrance to the garage will be where the blue B is of Bluebell House, which isn't a tarmacked
Can you
area.
put the elevations up? Because I think it's an open.
Chairman, have we had any Any comment from the public?
Not that I'm aware
I
of.
couldn't find any.
No. Certainly no one's approached the parish council.
That's too front.
So in effect, so your entrance is coming in that way from the drive, so it's, the roof is round the other way to
Right,
where it was before.
okay.
Can't see any problems with that. I propose we support the application.
Oh,
Okay. And that'd be on the basis that it's in character with the
Yeah.
general setting, it's not affecting the street scene and.
No.
Okay.
actually, potentially benefit the street scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay. You're happy with the reason?
Yeah.
Excellent. All those in support, please show.
Can you use some flower language for a meeting?
Chat GPT.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of the planning matters, and I'll take Owen nimbly leap over his cables to get back in place.
Yes, health and safety and all that.
Yeah. Right.
Which working group is that?
So, we get to set one up.
Okay. Clerk support, Owen.
Yeah, not a great deal. A couple of things I wanted to say. The postbox saga has gone on, getting the postbox removed or getting it installed near the shop from where it was originally. Both Bob and I have had huge amounts of dialogue with the post office, completely wasted time. They just don't want to know, basically. But we have moved it now further forward because we've asked it some months. Our MP to get involved. And she has agreed to take it up with maybe a contact she has in government. Whether that will bear any more fruit, I don't know. My objection in my last email was to the fact that there's no contact with the person who's been writing to us by email or by telephone. So the only contact I've got is handwritten letters. That's always a slow process because by the time it's actually got there, it's found the right person, he's looked at it, decided to copy and paste the last reply he made, and send it back to me, and it takes about 3 weeks. Whereas if I do it by email or by telephone, I could get more instant kind of response from them.
John.
Do we know what the cost of this is? And I assume we're not going to bear the cost, but could they be putting up brick walls because it's a significant cost to move it?
To be honest, when we first approached them, we even offered that we would get it put in
Yeah.
at the time the builders were doing the building.
Yeah.
And they refused that because they said it had to be their approved people who did it. So they won't, I don't think it's not a cost element. I mean, they're sticking to this. We don't need one because we've got one at end of Brent Street up at the Fox and Goose, and we've got one down at the telephone exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're within, nobody is more than half a mile away, we don't qualify.
But we're arguing now that the telephone exchange will get moved down here,
Absolutely.
which makes much more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as Owen said, we've had 3 replies now back from this guy. And
So,
certain paragraphs are word for word the same paragraph that he sent us, literally just copying the thing. They're just not taking it seriously. So,
Computer says no.
yeah, we've let we've had Tessa loose on it. So,
Is there any merit, do you think, in a public request? So, as a member of the public, writing to said person, would that
Obviously not.
be?
yeah, consider
For everybody to
never let you know.
Problem we've got, this is a private enterprise.
Yeah.
It's not government owned. It doesn't affect them. And we can do as much complaining as we like. The post office is under pressure. They haven't got money. They won't want to empty it. They'll see that as a cost. I'll guarantee somebody's been told reduce the number of pickup points. So I think we'll be wasting.
One of the key points I've made time and time again to them, in all the letters we've had and said, is that they are due to do some public relations exercise, bearing in mind the reputation the post office now has. Now we thought this would be a great opportunity to get your public image up a bit. That doesn't mean anything to just the public image.
In fairness, they still haven't paid out to the people that they've been.
Exactly. That's what I'm waiting to.
I think certainly when I spoke to, because I met Tessa at one of the surgeries and had a chat over and written to her as well, was that she does have a contact, she thinks, who is more human at the other end. And on top of that, she said she always has the trump card of, do you really want me raising this on the floor, as to how, going through the saga of what they've done, because it just makes them look really stupid. So she's happy to go public with it at a point where it helps. But again, she said, like we have, it's best to try and get it resolved if we can nicely. But then there are other ways we can be much more public in what we can say about it.
So we're going to publish it in the Brent Knoll News, our current position, and put it on the website.
And we
We
can,
can do. Absolutely. We put a note in there saying this is where you need to write. If you would like to write, then please do so. Yeah.
There's a benefit to the post office because we're paying for stamps.
yeah.
So that's postbox update. Just on general hedges around the village. I mean, obviously, there've been a couple of issues around, and we've obviously sent communications to people who have hedges that are creating difficulties. I think it'd be fair to say that I think a general request of all landowners, property owners, to make sure the hedges are not interfering with the visual display of exits, because if they are, the highways may decide to take some action. If there's an accident, then it could become liable. So, there are a number of exits coming out on Brent Street. There's Church Lane, there's Manor Ride, there's Battleborough Lane, among others, and all of them have a problem somewhere along the line.
If you can't remember, a little while ago we did Wick Lane on Burt Road. We wrote to the lane saying they could cut it back.
Yeah.
We did put a small note in the last Brent Knoll News, again highlighting the issue of hedges, but also highlighting the issue of not parking opposite junctions, which was another issue that's been raised with us, of highway safety on those junctions. Charlie?
Where do we stand with regards to overgrown hedges obscuring footpaths? Because I know we're talking about obscuring highways, but obviously people's hedges grow. They're not allowed to. So if you're walking past and obviously half the path is gone because someone hasn't cut their hedge.
That's happening on Burton Road.
Yeah.
The terrace cottages. They have two cars that park outside, partly on the pavement. Their hedges are overgrown. So I have to go on the road to get past the parked cars because you can't, it's not wide enough for
Burton
you
Road
to
as
walk
well.
down. That's in Burton Road.
I mean, again, if there are certain locations, let us know, because we can have a quiet word first.
Yeah.
And often, as I say, landowners will respond, because I think we can all be a bit guilty that you drive out of your own drive and you tend to forget about the fact that other people walk out. So it's an easy thing for people to forget what's the other side of their hedge rather than what they're looking at. So
You mean Bellevue Village?
Yes, that's
Yes.
what I mean. Yes.
okay.
Last time I mentioned the fact that I'm afraid the dear old laptop is beginning to show its age, and we need to, we agreed last time that we would consider replacing. Now, I haven't really done a great deal of research on a replacement. There's plenty of options. It doesn't need a high spec, not really enough for what we do. It's basically Word, Excel, PowerPoint at the very extreme, really. I'll continue to look at that. Having struggled a bit with chest problems over the last 3 months.
Is it worth, because we're going to have an IT working group anyway to look at the IT policy in a bit more detail. So is it worth having that discussion with them as well?
Get a specification together, what we think is required, and on your point that you made reasonably on the IT policy, I know it's coming up, but that is covered by Norton.
Right, okay.
360.
Yeah.
But fair point, fair question to ask, and that needs to be incorporated
In the policy,
within the policy, but we can talk about that later on.
Yeah.
I think that's probably it actually, that is it.
Okay. Anything else to say?
No, just surgery, we had 2 visitors actually, one on the planning application that you discussed this evening, and the other one was an ongoing concern over speeding issues, ANPR and everything else in Burton Road, predominantly. And that's obviously ongoing. The ANPR unit is coming up for discussion about the future and what police want to do about it in due course. So, more on that later.
Okay. Right, footpaths. One thing just to report, Colin is meeting with Steve Pinn,
Yeah.
to talk about both the installation of the gates that we talked about at the last meeting and also the repair of the handrail that goes up from the church to the first level of the knoll.
Yeah.
He's due to be meeting with Steve Pinn, so that's been arranged. Anything else?
I'm going to raise it again at the end, but Jane normally raises it up near the side farm, that farm.
Yeah, technically that's not a footpath, that's pavement.
Right, okay.
And it's James' road closure, because you may have seen that we've had, Owen's advertised. I've been notified of this, so I sent it to Owen and sent it to the local businesses. There is a road closure taking place at the end of Brent Street for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, because there's a shed load of,
Where's that going to be?
Right on the
Opposite
corner.
the
on
side
the
of
corner
farm,
side,
to
yeah.
that pavement.
So you will not be able to get from
Shut the road.
Brent Street into Burton Road or Station Road. So it's the second half of June, first week in July. The reason it's as long as it is basically because, as I say, there's a lot of statutory undertakers stuff under there. So you've got electrics, you've got gas, you've got water, you name it, it goes through that.
They were going to come on different days.
Hopefully not. But so yes, we have notified. We got in touch with Red Cow Nursing Home and the community shop. If there's any other businesses that anyone knows that's in Brent Street that are likely to be affected, my understanding is I don't think will affect Station Road into Burton Row. It's just the bit coming into Brent Street will be impassable.
Is it permanently closed for that 3 week period or just temporarily?
At the moment, it seems to be totally shut because they're going to be doing some fairly major excavations there to rebuild that
It's
whole.
falling into the ring.
Yes. But hopefully near the time there should be signs going up on the road, and then if it's going to be nighttime opening, we'll be told. But at the moment, it's just highlighted a 3 week window for closure.
Well, I hope they're going to be aware of the ducklings and the baby moorhens that are all there in that ring.
That could take
So that's a
6
good
weeks if
trade,
you take
isn't
that into account as
I'd
well.
like to be the right sort.
Mr. Chairman, if you go onto their site, it is closed permanently for the whole day, morning, night, everything.
Yeah,
It's closed because the hole's going to be 20 foot wide, and yeah, it's going to be the whole lot closed. That's what it says.
So if anyone's got a problem, just send them to Jane.
Yeah.
It's all her fault. So. It's taken a while for us to get it done, so it's really good that they finally got around to it.
essential,
It
because
is
it's
absolutely.
got smaller and smaller.
Yeah, it's been getting dangerous. Okay, highways. Malcolm, anything?
No, nothing to report. Right.
Okay. Jane?
Okay.
No.
Okay. We did have raised with us at the surgery, it was also mentioned that Wick Lane is still problematic with the road subsiding. So there have been some potholes filled there in the last week where the county have responded. Down not far from where we were just talking about with Hafford, one of the problems is where the road has gone down on one side, people are now grounding out on the high bit in the middle of the road. So that has been reported to Highways. They've written back saying they've acknowledged it. They haven't actually marked they're going to do anything with it yet, but at least it's now on their list of things to look at. So, but if you do go down Wick Lane, be careful because there are a number of places where it is a good 4 inches lower on one half of the road than the other. So you can see the gouge marks where people have grounded.
Did we get a conclusion? I know I missed the last meeting with regards to the supports around, I think it was on the corner of Wick Lane.
Is that the one Middle Street?
Oh, no, we do, it's Middle Street, yeah.
That's going quite nicely as well.
Yes.
That's the tractors.
So at the moment, again, with Steve Pinn, we've asked him to have a look at it and
Right.
see what could be done
Mhm.
to, because it's a question of how much there is to actually put any sort of fencing back into. But yes, we
Can
have
we
raised that with
can we
him.
propose a big statue of Jane going?
It's just, somebody is going to end up in that.
Yeah, probably you.
It's a vehicle.
Okay, we did, to try and make it a bit more obvious, we have cut back there was a lot of hedging that was over the fence. You can now see the disrepair that the fence is in because you've cut the hedge back, but it is more obvious. Anything else on highways?
Well, they do need to adjust that sign though as well.
On
It
Middle-
says horses. On the bend of Middle Street, there's a post with like, I'm triangle, circle,
Yes.
whatever its horse is. Well, that's at a jaunty angle,
Okay, we'll
and that's done.
Speedy.
It looks good to simulate.
So what are you asking, what are we
Well,
going to
the
do?
sign needs to be repositioned because it's not very clear. I mean, I know it's there, but
I'll do that through the app.
Okay,
just a minor.
but I'm going to just.
Yes.
I don't think any horses go down there because it's
They
into
do.
the tractors. No, it's
Yeah, they do go down there.
They can't read it.
I think the horse sign is on Burton Road.
Well, it's on, yes, it's on Burton Road, yeah, it's literally, you done past that, yeah.
Okay, we'll get that reported. Next one is Village Green report, which I think David was on, so I don't know has anyone had anything from David? Okay, if not. Play equipment has gone in, hopefully you will see since we last met. A couple of things, we've now put up the dog signs which Owen had ordered, so that we've got one on the front gate and one on the patio. Just a bit of a highlight, we have had a minor vandalism in that the one on the patio was ripped off, we've now put it back up again, and the little blue sign that was on the Village Green fence on the far side, that was ripped off, that's now going to go back as well. So hopefully it's a one-off, but we'll keep that under watch. And the only other thing I was going to report was the Hill Lane car park. We have now got the lock and chain, and as of from last week, it has been being locked up at night and opened in the morning. And touch wood, so far, it seems to be working.
It is, apart from we got the issue with the pedestrian gate later on. This morning it was wrapped all the way around there as well.
Okay, I will.
What was that, sorry?
Well, there's a pedestrian gate set into the big gate so that we don't shut the footpath off. People
Okay, yeah.
go through that one, but because when sometimes the temptation would be to wrap the chain around the whole
okay.
lot so that you can't open the pedestrian gate. That's all.
So we'll have a word with the volunteers who are helping us, just to make sure they're locking the right bit. We have had also at least one other couple who walk the Knoll at night. That sounds a bit odd, but they tend to have an evening walk. They said if we needed any help locking it up at night, they would be prepared to volunteer. So there are other people out there who would be prepared to help us if we need that.
I know, given the changes to the parish council, we're short of people to check the green. I'm happy to do the June 1 and report back in July. Nobody wants to volunteer.
We've got 3 hours.
Yeah, of course, I don't mind.
Queuing up now. So
I don't mind.
whoever wishes to do it, for June, I don't mind. As long as we know who it is.
I mean, I'm down in the shop Mondays and Wednesday mornings, I can do it then.
I will rescind my offer.
You do it for charge.
Once we've, next month, we hopefully will be in a position to recruit another parish councillor. At that point, we're up to full membership.
And
So
I
we'll make
propose
sure we get-
November is offered to our new parish councillor.
Right.
So that's what I was thinking about. November, you okay with that?
Yeah. Can't go on right now, can I?
Okay, anything else on Village Green Toilet Block Car Park or Hill Lane Car Park? Yeah, Jane.
The toilets, we have cleaners who do it Mondays and Fridays, don't they? But they do also come and check on a Wednesday, and they do feel that we need it doing 3 times a week, and the toilets have been mucky due to people being a bit dirty in there. And we don't have a toilet brush. So the idea was, should we have a toilet brush in each toilet? But then somebody said they're unhygienic. So I don't know what the answer is.
We did, in the old toilets, we did have a brush with
Yeah.
people can use it if they need to.
Yeah.
The other thing we haven't got in there, I don't think, at the moment is a bin, which we had in the others,
No.
particularly on the ladies' side, we had a bin.
I tend to go in there quite a lot because when I'm touring and travelling in the village, and I must admit they're not terrible. I think for the added cost, I think we probably ought to just stick to twice a week because it is quite expensive. We're paying quite a lot for having it
Well, can
twice
we
a week.
invest in a couple of toilet brushes, see how those work? And with regards to a bin, I'm sure we can buy a bin as long as it's mounted. I think somebody may taking bins if
I
they're
mean, I
vandalising
must
our
admit, I
signs.
went in there on Monday, and they, quite early Monday morning, and they were disgusting. So I'd have hoped that they'd been, when Monday's visit would have sorted that
Yes,
out.
yeah.
I went in there again today, and I didn't think I thought they were right today.
Well, I went in first thing this morning to check them, but I hadn't checked the toilet bowl. The facilities themselves were clean, the area was clean. I mean, I think it depends sometimes whether there are builders, and then you get half-term holidays, more people.
I wonder if it'll change during the winter months as well.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, well, if members are happy, we'll stick with the twice a week at the moment, but monitor it.
Yeah.
Are you happy that we do get a couple of brushes and a couple of bins to go in the 2 toilets, Andy?
With school holidays, sort of listening, is it because they're under pressure during the school holiday periods? In which case, during those periods, do we go to 3 days a week and then come out for the winter periods and low periods?
Yeah, yes, I think that would be beneficial.
Because certainly the playground is being used a lot in the half term.
And they do use, there's a lot of litter around after holidays.
That being funny, if you're down at the shop, are you willing to sort of do a bit of, not clean the
Oh,
toilets,
yes, no,
but just
I'm quite
monitor the situation?
I don't
at the
mind
moment?
putting some domestos done,
No,
that's fine,
but
but
just to monitor it, to
yes,
see,
no, I'll
and if,
monitor it,
I
yes.
think Andy will be right, over the summer holidays, it
Especially
might
the
need
summer.
to update,
Yeah.
but if we get a feel as to what's happening.
Because when the kids are playing, they've got bottles of juice and everything, and they're all just dumped
Yes.
by the
it's
netball
horrendous.
post, you know.
I mean, to be honest, go back to the toilets. It's like I said, I'm in and out. If we had a brush and we had like a thing of bleach,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind getting
Yeah, you
it
just,
always
yeah,
round
that's it,
midweek,
yes.
because that's going to save us a considerable amount of money, rather than saying going to, which we might not need it every week, and it's a lot of money.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't have a problem.
I think, yeah.
The only issue with that is that's dependent on councillors doing it. And when councillors aren't around, it's not going to get done. I think you've got to look, whilst we can do that intermittently, if we've got a high pressure period on that, we should then manage that separately and then come back out. And if that's not working, then we've got a different issue. And the second thing is, we could put signs up telling people that they need to
Hygiene.
high hygiene. Not that it does much, but it does.
Yes,
it
it's
does
there.
help a bit.
Yeah.
But I do think you're going to come under pressure again in school periods, school holiday
Well,
periods.
Yeah, because we've got, as Matt Jane said, there are builders across the road which are using it as well. When that building project has come to an end, I personally think we should monitor it and just see how it goes for the time being, rather than spend a huge amount more money.
Okay, we'll put it back on the agenda for next time to see what's happened over this
Yeah.
next month,
Yeah.
see
See how it goes.
whether
Yeah,
we think.
keep an eye on
But in
it.
the meantime, are you happy that we get a couple
Yeah.
of blue brushes and a couple of bins?
I will suggest there are different qualities of blue brushes. You buy a cheap and nasty one that will look tatty and rusty very quickly, where there are a lot of new silicone ones which don't rust and do the same thing. So they're
Proper job, I've got plastic ones.
okay. Well, as long as the plastic ones
I know.
aren't wired together, because it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
wiring that gets
Yeah.
rusty, it makes them look really awful.
Proper job, if we got them from Proper Job for a couple of quid, then we can just bin them again.
Environmental.
So members are happy to
Recycle.
proceed on that basis?
Yes.
Okay. One other thing just on the village green, just to let you know, I was down a couple of days and I actually got collared by people who were visitors to the village who said they thought ours was an absolutely lovely green, how great the equipment was, and they loved coming here rather than going to their own village because they think it's much better. But so it was nice to get some positive feedback from people, and there seems to be positive feedback so far about the new kit. I think some of the kids would like it to be about twice as high.
Yeah.
But there's no
Twice as long.
Yes.
And one of those a death slide written on.
Yes.
One of them said to me he'd like it motorised.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting.
Okay. Audit staffing group haven't met. Shop liaison group haven't met. Was just going to raise the issue that members are aware of, that it's been mentioned to us by the shop that they've been approached about possibly having lockers on the outside of the shop. our members happy that we let them investigate it, find out exactly how it would be attached to the building and make sure it obviously wouldn't cause a structural damage, but at least in principle, we're happy for them to investigate that. Flood Action Group. David's not here, and so we'll have to get him to report on that next time. The only thing I can note is later on the agenda, a bit up behind the footpath, isn't it? Yes, we'll do that later. Contract Review Group, again, hasn't.
We haven't met because I'm afraid I wasn't too good, and so I cancelled the arrangement we had. So I think we just need to make an undertaking on that. So it suits you and David.
Yeah.
Perhaps one evening, 5 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll do that with you.
Okay.
Later.
And IT Working Group, we touched on earlier, that there
Yeah.
needs to be a meeting.
Jonathan, Charlie and myself, 3 of us to meet up. There's a whole raft of different things. So there's lots of new legislation coming in as well. There's my complete incompetence on a lot of IT issues which I need some help with. So
Blind leading blind.
but whatever, I think we do need to meet up at some stage. I know perhaps one evening perhaps would be the obvious thing to do. An evening or whatever. Would that suit?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
But have you guys got a template that you're using to a corporate template with IT?
we have done nothing yet, so there's an IT policy.
I'll see if I can dig one up.
Well, we've got an IT policy in place now, of course, which I've circulated.
Yeah,
And the IT policy I put there simply because we have to have it. It's not perfect and it needs a lot of changing and tweaking, but at least it's an IT policy. And if anybody wanted to check it out now, we do have one.
yeah, that's just saying I can dig out one of ours corporate and then you
If
can
you've got
bastardize it. Yeah, it might give you a template.
Yeah.
And make sure you desensitize it before it.
They won't mind. They won't mind.
Okay.
One of the big things about IT, of course, is that we do have disability access statement on the website, but it's no use having a statement because we're not actually compliant with disability access. It's the way you actually upload material, or the way you actually, and it's something which is completely over my head, and we need to get some advice on that, I think, before we can proceed. And what we might decide to go with a website, for example, all sorts of things, really. All very mundane stuff really, but needs sorting.
So in terms of the policy introduction updates, the IT policy, are we saying that's just an interim policy?
That's an interim
whilst
policy.
It's drawn up by.
Let me know on the website if you're happy for it to go on the website. It doesn't say anything that it shouldn't say as far as we're concerned, but it's missing a lot of bits that should be on there. So, but at least we can now claim that we have an IT policy in place.
Okay. Right, that moves us on to report from Somerset member. So basically, a couple of things from Somerset. As you remember, I updated at previous meetings that for this financial year we're now in, we're looking at using £43 million worth of our sale of assets to pay for revenue to fill the gap in the budget. The medium-term financial plan that's been drawn up, which has now looked at next year's budget, is provisionally, with the known likely increases in expenditure that are coming down the track, are now looking at a £101 million hole in that budget for next year. So there is going to have to be a lot of work in the next 12 months to try and reduce that figure, because ultimately, after the next 18 months have gone, we're not going to have very many assets left to sell to fill the gaps. So it was only ever supposed to be a short-term interim fix. It's taking longer than was hoped. So it is something that Somerset are still struggling with. Part of that is also not helped by the fact that we've just appointed our third interim chief finance officer in less than a year. So the new person is coming in for a year's contract. They have been out to try and recruit a permanent finance officer, and currently are not getting one. Possibly because no one wants to jump into the boiling water that is Somerset at the moment. It doesn't necessarily look great on your CV if your first result is pulling the plug on the finances by saying you've hit the 114 notice. So at the moment, one of the problems with that is obviously each time we get a new finance officer, they each have their own idiosyncrasies and particular ways they think things should be done. And so there's a lot of changing and rechanging stuff that's happening. So we'll see how that moves in the next few months. There is a discussion going on at the moment because as part of the redundancy programme that's gone forward, which as I mentioned previously has resulted in over 560 posts going in Somerset, there is a review of the structure of employment of officers. That was always due to happen because obviously we have 4 districts and 1 county, and so we have people on 5 different sets of employment contracts. Under legislation, I'm led to believe that you can't just force people to change their contracts if you're giving them worse terms than they had in their previous contract. So there's going to be an element of some of the people, particularly on the district contracts, won't change to the new contract because they will be worse off. So that will happen over time as people leave. They're also very keen not to fall into the same hole that Birmingham did in terms of making sure that jobs of different types are graded equally, particularly male and female roles that may not appear to be the same but need to be graded the same in terms of salary, which is where the binman fell out in Birmingham, because they weren't happy that cleaners were then being paid the same as them, so they wanted extra money, and that's generally what's kicking off in Birmingham at the moment. They are getting in a consultant to help them sort it out, and that will be costing us £3 million. But at the end of it, they think that will mean that we will have a properly structured staff set up, and we will not be open to any sort of legal challenges coming forward. Other than that, we have got, I was going to just mention on a much smaller note, vaping. One of the problems we've been finding recently is people are disposing of their disposable vapes in their general rubbish, and they are then blowing up and causing fires. So it's being asked basically if anyone is throwing away disposable vapes, rather like we do with the battery collection now at the door, you can put them in a little plastic bag, put them on top of your waste and they will take them away, but don't put them in the general waste because it has caused serious problems elsewhere.
There's legislation coming in, isn't there?
Yeah, it should be stopped, but it's apparently you're not allowed to sell them. I don't think you're banned from buying them. So there is some discussion going on at the moment about people bringing them in from overseas. So it's an ongoing bit of an issue as well. Other than that, I think that's probably it from Somerset. We're happy to take any questions if there are. Okay. So, moving on then to parish council finances.
Yeah, finance basically the statutory payments for June 2025 as per the March 5th, 24/1/23 minute, which approves statutory payments. So I just need you to reaffirm that for June. If I can do that first, probably best. So it's just a statutory.
Just in a second, Malcolm. All those in favour?
Okay, so
Carried.
and then the variable payment listing, we've got 4 or 5 items: the GB Sports and the new equipment and the services, etc. 24,000. Obviously, we've got to consider there's one possible bit of change we might need to make to the roundabout because of clearance. So we decided to hold back on the payment until we've sorted that out with GB finally, which we're hoping to do next week. So what we're looking for is approval that we can pay it as and when we are satisfied that we're happy with the outcome.
And just to confirm, that includes the VAT, so an element.
That's right. There's no limit on VAT. Yeah. And obviously our reserves, we've got reserves allocated to that project.
Mr. Chairman, ON sign 6240, what's that for?
That was the dog signs.
You paid 6240 for dog signs?
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about this a long time ago actually, and there were several issues came up, so whether we get them on Amazon or whatever. But the point is that you at least with area know what you're getting. They're used to producing signage for councils, so they are more expensive, but they are at least fully council compliant.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just the one I got for the assembly point, which is BS standard.
Yeah.
That was off Amazon, and I only got that for 19 quid.
Yeah.
And it's a bit standard one.
There's three of these, so.
At the front as well, the little ones on the ground.
This is for a single one, actually.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Well,
It is.
we'd already paid for the previous one,
Yeah,
so the
okay.
previous meeting.
Okay, yeah. Just want to know what it's for, 'cause it says, just as the one signed, yeah.
Yeah, fair point, but
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, we built up a relationship with Area
Yeah.
Science and they are, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we can go.
That's the one in Cheddar, isn't it, where I went to.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
So that's that. The setup fees for 25, 26. You remember last time we said that we hadn't paid setup fees because they increased significantly over the previous year.
Can you remind me what the salt fees are?
So Somerset Association of Local Councils, they're a body which we use for advice. So if we don't want to use advice from the council necessarily, Somerset Council, we can go to SALC, and SALC support local councils and town councils, parish councils, town councils. They've had lots of internal changes within their organisation. They've come back and said that, you know, there are some things they're taking responsibility for now, more training and so forth, and this has created the need for them to look more diligently at their finances. Very few have decided not to go with them now. I think only about 4 that I'm aware of who have not decided to renew. So we just got to decide whether we want to do it or not, really.
The question is that it's easy for them to say we've incurred costs and we're training more and we've changed stuff. Are they published? Are they publishing? Are they justifying?
Giving us broad sort of indicators.
I think you circulated.
Yeah, I circulated a paper around which showed what their reply was to my request.
Yeah, which was very generic.
Very much so.
Which suggests they don't understand either, or not prepared to discuss it. You're saying very few have gone for it. It's a shame.
No, very few have not gone for it.
It's a shame that the other councils don't put pressure on these people, because that's way above inflation. It's above statutory inflation.
It is. And I think the reason why most smaller parishes have gone with it is because they do realise the service that they can provide. I mean, they're made of, the money is made up on one serious inquiry you make to them, which probably would not otherwise lead legal advice. That's their argument, that if we went, for example, when we did the shop, we had a number of things that we had to ask them and go back to them on, which if we'd asked the legal processes would cost us more. So their argument is that, yes, probably it does look expensive, it probably comes cheap in the end, if you need to use us. Because if you don't need to use us, probably we're not really providing you with very much. I mean, for example, they do a lot of training, for example. There's a lot more training than they ever used to do, because Somerset Council don't do the training now that Sedgemoor used to do. So there's a lot of training going on, and that's their argument. And it's a question of whether we feel it's worth the cost of belonging to them. Because if we don't belong to them, then we're stuck. If we do get any questions of a legal nature.
Are they an affiliated body or are they an independent trading company?
They're affiliated to the NALC, which is their National Association of Local Councils. So all local councils are through. It's a bit like there's a body for district councils, there's a body for county councils. SALC and NALCA are the one for town and parish councils.
There are 2 organisations. There's SALC that we subscribe to, and we also subscribe to SLCC, which is Society of Local Council Clerks. Now, the second one of those, SLCC, is more aimed at supporting clerks, whereas SALC is more about supporting councils and councillors. So they have different roles, even though some of the information is available on both.
Things like our code of conduct and standing orders are basically based on their template of what the setups are.
Yes. So it is a matter for you at the end of the day. You have to decide whether you think that the service they're providing is sufficient to warrant the increase.
And how much was it previously?
It's about 390 the previous year.
It's substantial, though.
60%.
Yeah, 60%. Although I hadn't got, to be fair to them, it hadn't gone up very much at all over the previous 5 years. It's only gone up by about £10 a year. So they had 5 years of virtually no increase.
But that would have been inflation. In fairness, that would have been inflation.
Have to bear in mind the national insurance.
16% on workers. All in. But that's saying that if 16% is the maximum increase on salaried staff that are on the minimum level. I would imagine any of their people are on minimum level. So it's going to be standard inflation for them. So it's extortionate. 60% is extortionate.
I think the other thing they sort of said, and it sort of comes back to Somerset as well, but I think the demands on their services from parishes in the last year or so have suddenly shot up a lot, because with Somerset devolving stuff down, they're suddenly being lots of parishes are coming saying, well, what do we do with this? How do we deal with this? And so it's put more pressure on them, so, which is why they've recruited.
And it doesn't sound like we have a choice.
Yeah.
It's something we're just going to have to come up with.
I mean, Owen has made it very plain to them that we are less than impressed, and I know a number of other clerks have as well, so it will be coming up at when the South meeting next happens, then there will certainly be a discussion of this, because this has caused a lot of
Because
concern.
we can't be told over a barrel if this time next year it's £1,200.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Absolutely.
Exactly. Once they've set the precedent,
yeah.
then we've got no control.
So, I just need you to either approve or not approve that particular payment as part of the overall round. The other one there is SELC. There's an outstanding invoice there. Back in January, I must admit I missed the payment on it actually. I forgot. I did a VAT and an external audit training, because there were quite a few changes came up with the audit this year. So I did an online training, which previously we hadn't actually had an invoice for. I didn't think we'd had an invoice for. Anyway, they've sent me a reminder now, so I need authorisation for that payment. And then finally, the council insurance, which has gone up hardly at all actually. And when you consider we've got the shop now, it's been amazing. We're paying only about £100 more now from what we were paying on the old toilet block, the new build, which is incredible. So they have, and we're in a 3-year contract, so they don't put it up beyond a 3-year contract. So at the moment, that's where we are on payments. So I just need you to approve.
Charlie?
Well, I propose that we paid, the only one I would caveat is the GB Sports, given what you said about we're waiting to get the final information on that one.
Yeah, so it's basically pay them all, GB Sports, subject to us making sure it's okay. And also, would you caveat members just again highlight the fact that we watch SALC fees for next year?
Yes.
We're not just saying at any
And
price.
we will write them accordingly.
Yeah. Is that seconded? Okay. All those in favour, please show. Okay. Unanimous. Thank you.
Monthly budget was updated. Doesn't show a great deal at this time of year. It's only got 2 months on it. And there's nothing outstanding, any large payments on that apart from normal statutory. As we get further into the year, the budget becomes more of an issue, because the things start to develop. We can start to forecast where we're going to end up. So I thought by the time we normally get to September, that's the time when we've had 4 months when we really start to see some changes. So, but that I'm sending out now each and every month.
Sorry, are you proposing a quarterly review?
Well, I'm proposing a monthly review really, and I'm sending it out every month. If there's anything on there on a monthly basis which you want to ask a question on, I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah.
So it's a monthly thing,
So we'll
really.
basically have it as an agenda item.
Yeah, it's an agenda item.
Okay.
Standard item.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's consideration. Okay, so the first one, and that's on there because of me. So it's the heading is overall village green to consider. The reason it's there is I have had my ear bent by numerous members of the village about the fact that we don't have dogs on the village green. A number of them are dog owners who believe responsible dog owners, it's not a problem if dogs were on the green. And I pointed out that it's been a number of years we've had that policy, and what the basis was, why we had it, which was the concern about children. Potentially there was a big story about eyes and blindness that can cause issues. It was said to me that obviously that was a long time ago that we had that discussion, so I said, well, what I would do is I would put it on the agenda so that members of the current council could discuss what they believe is the situation and whether we should continue with the ban, whether it's a 365-day-a-year ban or whether we make exceptions for special occasions. But the only thing I felt was fair was that at least members have the chance to relook at it and decide what they feel. So it's very much over to members. Amanda?
Absolutely no way, under any circumstances. It's a children's playground. It's like we've already pointed out the fact that that is a haven for children. The mugger is every night, there are people playing football or whatever, and they're sat down all around. Absolutely no way, and we cannot make any exceptions, because once we start doing that, you get one pile of poo, and that's it.
Okay, Hayley?
I'd back Amanda because there's loads of walks around here, everything like that. And people come when we have the party on the greens and that lot, you know, we got to turn them away with the dogs, simple as that. But, you know, there's loads of walks around here. That green's not big enough for a dog, you know.
And I would say we can't have exceptions because it says, well, when can I walk my dog? When can't I? And I think it just needs to be an outright ban.
We have a blanket ban, that's it.
Yeah.
We have the knoll, we have the beach.
People aren't picking up on the
Well, I mean, dogs barking and everything, children get frightened. So yeah, they should be in the green.
I was just saying, people aren't picking up, you know, every day I take the kids to school, there's to dodge
Yeah.
landlords on the way down.
Yeah.
It was
They
like-
do
Don't
pick
pick
it up
up
off the
their own
pavement.
rubbish in the park, let alone
Yeah, exactly.
Charlie?
Can I make a proposal that we retain the ban on dogs on the
Seconded.
village green?
All those in favour? That's unanimous. So, thank you. Next one is any update on AM?
Well, I'm still putting forward certain amounts of data to the police. It's not huge. The amount of data I'm putting through is not huge, which of course belies the information we seem to be getting that everybody in Burton Road drives at 80 miles an hour, which doesn't seem to be the case. There are some.
I think people are aware it's there, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It was moving around and catching more people.
Because we're not putting a lot of data in, it means when the police come to review whatever it is, whether they're going to continue with it or not, then they'll probably say, well, is it worth it?
On the moving front, we've got agreement from the police to reauthorise the Ham Road. So it now is going, it moves a couple of areas on Burton Road, a couple of areas on Brent Street, Ham Road as well. So it is now circulating more around the village. Charlie?
Just understanding ANPR a little bit more, so I'm going to make numbers up for the video. If we set it 10 miles an hour, would we get all that data and you would only feed to the police where it's over 30 miles an hour? Or do you not get any data unless the ANPR captures the person above the speed limit? So if it's set at 10 miles an hour and I did 8 miles an hour, you're not going to catch me. But if I did 15 miles an hour, you'll catch me. So I'm just wondering how the ANPR works.
Well, the ANPR works in the manner that the police have got a figure which they have set with us that is their sort of benchmark.
The benchmark, yeah.
I think the question is, do you see any record of data that's under that benchmark, or is only that benchmark that triggers the thing to record?
At the moment, I only get the data from the amount that we set it at. I don't get anything below that.
So I'm wondering if we should set it lower than the police benchmark, so at least it's recording it, because then we may be getting people that are only just slightly over the limit, but maybe not. Even if we don't share that data with the police, from a statistical point of view, you can say out of 100 drivers that we caught, 20% were over 60 miles an hour, 5% were within range, but we have the data to analyse, where at the moment we don't have that data.
I think that every 5 or 10 miles an hour that you change it downwards, it changes the volume of data considerably. I mean, I saw that when we changed it before. You know, it was set quite high when we started, and we put it down, and it went like that, the amount of data. And if you set it down again by another 10 miles per hour, say, you'd get pages of it, I'm sure you would. Because you'd have people in the sort of 30, 35, 40 range.
There is an element of, we do get some of that data because the ANPR is used in conjunction with the SID. So there is a SID in front of it. The SID does record all whatever mileage. So that keeps us anything of 30 limit is recorded by the SID. So we have all of that information in both directions.
I'm just wondering if we can do a comparison. So again, throw numbers in the air. If our ANPR is set 60 miles an hour, there's going to be that 30-mile-an-hour difference between the SID, where we could turn around and say, actually, maybe we do need to be lowering it because over 30 miles is still breaking the law, even if we're not putting the buffer.
I've got one. Abe was first, and then Andy.
No, Owen said, because obviously when he comes and does a camera and sets it up at in my garden, we was chatting and it's set to 34 mile an hour, I think he said to me. So, because the police, it's a leeway. It's crazy. You know, if you're doing 34 and a 30, you'll just get, oh, don't want to do that. It's silly. I said to him, can't you set it at 30? Because the law was 30. And he said, no, he said, the police say, we've got to set it at this certain speed. And I said, the same with them when they do a gun.
And I think that's because cars, there is a 5% leeway. I know, for example, if I set my speedometer on my car for 30 to drive through the village, the SID tells me it's happy that I'm only doing 28, where my car is saying I'm doing 30. So I think that's why there's a tolerance.
Generally, if you set your car into TomTom or whatever, that will have a difference as well. It's never quite exact.
I was just saying, whilst it sounds a plausible thing to do, somebody's got to analyse the data.
I'm a data analyst.
I understand, but you're not allowed access to the data.
Yeah. Which is
So-
where Owen would have to literally change all the number plates.
And then once we've got it, what would we do with it?
But it
Because the
allows-
police aren't going to do anything if it's below their trigger point. They're just not.
It allows us to determine if the trigger point is wrong and go back to them and saying, look, you're missing out on
But it
50
will be a
drivers.
sunset thing.
Yeah.
All it would allow me to do is obviously count up all those cars that are over certain limits and just keep a record of the number of vehicles, even though I'm not uploading it to the
Yeah.
The leeway on the limit is there for all the reasons that we're discussing, and they're not going to be interested in changing that. Because all of a sudden they're not prosecuting now, and all of a sudden they're just going to open the gates up to a lot more prosecutions.
If I'm totally honest, they're turning them like pro RA and PR anyway. They're not, if they could just walk away from it, they would, I'm sure.
Owen will be spending his whole time analysing the data and
Well,
helping
that's the whole point. I mean, how much time do you want to spend looking at data? But it is important that we get it right. And
Exactly, nobody's going to do anything with it.
it's like so many things, isn't it? Unless you can enforce something, there's not a lot of point in it.
And certainly, just again, as Andy was saying, we're not issuing fines against the ANPR. It is purely acting as a virtual speed watch, so they get a warning letter.
Yeah.
And we are told there are certainly letters going out.
There are letters going out, and the other thing to say also is that one thing I have been able to look at over the few months is the repeat offenders. There is quite a number of those that crop up fairly regularly, because I just put a highlight pen through them, and I can see which ones are the most offending vehicles.
Do you happen to know if they're local? They're repeat offenders?
No, I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
And we also had cases of somebody with a hidden number plate as well. Somebody went through NPR with one of these ghost plates on it, and Stuart Nichols looked into it a bit closer, and he found that he could just about make out one or two other numbers on there, but not sufficient.
Yeah.
So we've reported that to the police. So that's becoming a major issue in some areas of the country, apparently. People are using more and more ghost plates. For application, we should use it.
Okay. Flood rating matters, just to give you an update. So Hugo, who's the guy from FWAG, the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group, has now been back to us. He's getting a couple of extra quotes for the work. This is on the footpath heading up behind the church and heading up towards the knoll. This is to do with basically the slowing the flow of water through the field. He's getting a couple of extra quotes so that he can then submit those to get the grant funding to help us fund that side of it. As he said previously, he can't pay for the footpath work itself, but it's the slowing the flow and the so hopefully he's now got all the information he needed from Kenny Gordon, who did the initial outline of what it involved, and he's now getting extra quotes so he can get his grant applications in. Andy?
The church wall, as a result of that flooding in the years, that wall needs repointing. It will give soon. it's already starting to give. It's not our responsibility, it's the church, but I think it's our responsibility to put some pressure on the church to get it fixed.
Flag it up to the church. It is the bit, so just to check, if you're standing in front of the church looking at the church, is this the section
It's the
towards
memorial,
right hand side?
it's the memorial side of it.
Yeah. The right hand side as you're looking from the front. Okay. Co-option process and updating for the other vacancy.
Well, there's an advertising process at the moment. We're advertising with VKN and also some notice boards, and that completes on the 21st of June. So after that, we'll see what happens. There are, at the moment, no applicants for the replacement. So we'll see what materialises.
Okay. Item F we've already covered, which was about the post office. So we come to matters of report. Jane. Amanda.
Neighbourhood watch again.
Watch, yes, I've got it down.
Yeah, they've been round and put 30-mile-an-hour signs on the road, all around the place, but I think bottom end here, up here, there's nothing at all up Ann Road. There is just before the bridges, but that's it. There's nothing on Ann Road at all, and that's like 3/4 of a mile up to the actual boundary of 30-mile-an-hour zone. So there's nothing there at all. And they've not done no white lines, no yellow lines, just put the 30 mile an hour and that's it. I'm thinking, well, they was there, why didn't they just put white lines in at the same time? I can't understand it.
So they've done the roundels in other parts of the village, but they haven't done Ham.
No, they've done no man road at all.
Okay. So that would be okay.
Yeah.
We can pass that on.
Yeah.
Okay, John.
Nothing really.
Nothing from me.
Nothing really.
Okay, in which case, thank you all very much. We'll close the meeting. Anything to that?
8:10.